much. Thank you for having us this afternoon. We really appreciate you coordinating everyone to get together. Um, we'll get started today by introducing our speakers. My name is Elena Vera, and I'll be your moderator for today's panel discussion. I have been with ICF for over 11 years, working in the energy efficiency program design and implementation space, supporting utility clients across the Mid-Atlantic region. Our primary speakers today include Kris Dunn. Kris serves as the Managing Director of Member Services, overseeing engagement, energy usage, analysis, and consultation, and other initiatives that drive the success of businesses within Rappahannock Electric Cooperative's territory. With over 3 decades of experience in the electric industry, including 25 years at REC, Sieber brings significant experience to her role. We're also joined by Erin Puryear. Erin brings more than 35 years of utility experience and currently leads member services and energy innovation planning at Old Dominion Electric Cooperative, 26 of which are with ODEC. She also serves as a board member of the Virginia Cooperative Council, as board treasurer of the Virginia Clean Cities Board, and continues several national DER advisory groups. Lastly, Aubrey Myers. Aubrey is a U.S. Army veteran and quality control inspector for Pennsylvania County Community Action. With 15 years in weatherization, he's a certified auditor and national exam contributor and has coached softball for over 40 years. We'll get started with our presentation in just a moment, but in terms of some housekeeping items, please hold your questions until after the presentation. But as you are hearing the content today, please feel free to drop them into the comment box and we'll get to them after we conclude today's presentations. All right, with that, Kris, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks so much. Good afternoon. I was asked to share some information about how our cooperative at Rappahannock Electric Cooperative, how we work with the members to save energy and what does that look like. Next slide.
Hey, Erin, I'm so sorry, but it looks like I have Kris's presentation up first. Would you like?
That's correct.
Kris is presenting.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I thought Erin was speaking. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, just next slide. Thank you. So I thought I would tell you a little bit. Oh, you went to. I thought I would tell you a little bit about REC to make sure that you understood who our members are and what we look like. So currently we're in 22 counties across the Commonwealth of Virginia. We have over 184,000 active accounts, over 18,000 miles of line, a little less than 500 employees. And we are actively looking at a lot of our stats, including one of the big ones for me is ACSI, which has to do with member satisfaction or customer satisfaction index. So here's just a few of our stats to make sure you know who REC is. Next slide. So let's talk about what promotions we do regarding programs with REC. One of the things that we have started doing, especially during high bill season, is we do mid-cycle reviews of accounts. And we pull reports and we look at our members who, if they have an extremely high bill going or working on that in mid-cycle, we actually call that member. We do a little bit of analysis. We make sure that we have some points ready for us, and then we try and contact that member to see if anything has changed or any way that we can help them save energy for the rest of the month. The worst thing that could happen is a member could have a piece of equipment going bad in the home, and then 30 days later, they get hit with a high bill. We try and prevent that. Some of our billing programs include auto pay, budget billing, and prepay. Auto pay means that we have their bank account, savings, or checking, and then on the day the bill is due, it's subtracted out of their banking account and it pays their bill. And it helps members who are on the go not forget, not get charged any late payment charges, which in essence helps them save. Budget billing is an average of 12 months. And then we update that periodically throughout the year to make sure that budget is working for them. and then they pay basically the same amount every month. And then prepay is pay as you go. So they decide if they run out of money in their tank, when to fill back up. And it also, we find, helps them be more aware of the energy they're using on a daily basis. We provide walkthrough audits through our field employees, our MSFRs. If a member calls in with a high bill complaint, in the office, we'll do some pre-analysis, ask questions, and then physically go out and walk through some things with the member just to make sure that we've checked everything, and as far as we know, everything's working properly. Smart Hub is a tool that we have. It's our online tool. It's also an app that our members can download to the, it's my right. You'll see a screenshot of one of the screens that they'll get in Smart Hub, and it's a monthly reminder of some ideas of how to save energy. It also allows them to look at their household profile on a monthly basis. It will break down how the AI bot is determining what they're using in the house. Like 16% of it is your refrigerator, 18% is your dryer. If they walk through the home profile and let our Smart Hub know exactly what's in the house, it does a better job at working with the member so that it educates them on how they're using their energy. And then we have due day alerts. We have many different types of alerts that a member can set up to say, if I have a high day of usage, they can get an alert. If I just want to know when my bill is due, they can get an alert, so forth and so on. The home profile section that I was talking about before, it's an AI bot we call it Bidgely. And there are monthly summary reminders that when they go in the app, it will make sure that they're understanding exactly what's going on with their monthly bill. Next slide. And this is an example of some of the Smart Hub screenshots. Oh, one too far. Can you go back? Thank you. Here's a couple of screenshots.
I apologize. I think it's the way that the slides are moving. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
It
It does not like that screen.
It does not want to stay on this slide.
Here,
I'm not doing anything, and it's still moving.
Well, what the other slide was a screenshot of some of what the members have access to as we try and educate them on energy usage. That is really weird. I guess we'll just go from here. It showed a screenshot of if your bill continues on the path, you're in day 20, by day 30, you will go from this amount, this is what your bill is currently, and on the trajectory of where you're going, you'll go from $225 to $300 if you stay on path. So that was one of the options. The other options, it was showing you just some screenshots of educational points that we bring out to the member, because what we know is members really don't know why their bills are high. They in a normal world, they don't work in the utility industry daily. They don't know what to look for. They don't necessarily understand some easy tips or easy changes they could do to bring their bill down. And I just did a screenshot here to give you an idea of how many high bill questions and complaints that we get during the year once we get into high usage season, which typically, as you might imagine, is summer and winter. One of the things we know, new members, they move to new locations. They don't understand what that new house is telling them. They need to be brought up to speed. Okay, let's talk about what's there. Is your water heater electric? Is your dryer electric? What kind of heat do you have? So our MSRs, our members service representatives, will take the time to talk through with that member and help them understand. They also don't understand on a regular basis that the impact the weather outside will impact their bill. It's a lot easier to heat a house to 69 or 70 degrees if it's only 58 degrees outside. If it's 13 degrees outside, it takes a lot more energy to bring that house and maintain that house at 69 degrees. They don't understand that if you have a heat pump, that every degree above 69 degrees is basically going to increase your power bill about 3%. So we talk through what their daily habits are. We talk through when's the last time you've done maintenance on your HVAC system to make sure it's working properly. Too many times we've gone out to a location and the AC and the emergency heat are running at the same time. And the member has no idea. They just know they haven't been able to cool the house down, not realizing that they have a piece of equipment that's malfunctioned. So we do talk through that and make sure they're aware. And then we do regular reminders because people forget this is not their industry. They look for us to be their energy experts. So we post items to be aware of as seasons change in social media, bill messages, and then other ways, even within Smart Hub, we'll post some reminders just to educate that member a little more or bring their awareness back to what can they do as the seasons are changing so that they keep their bills as efficient as possible. We want them to use what they need, but we also want them to be aware so they don't waste. And we feel like these programs, these services allow our members to want to call us and want to learn more. And at this point, I will pass it on to Erin.
Thanks, Kris. So we can get the camera on. Good afternoon. Let's go on over to the next slide. So my name is Erin Puryear. I'm with Dominion Electric Cooperative, and we are the Generation and Transmission Cooperative. We have 11 distribution electric cooperatives. They are our member owners, so they own us. And you can see here we have 9 in Virginia, which includes 1 on the Eastern Shore, and then we have 1 in Maryland and 1 in Delaware. We are a not-for-profit entity, and so our goal is, and I'll talk a little bit about it on the next slide, is to be able to provide reliable and affordable electricity to our distribution cooperatives. We have about 110 miles of transmission over on the Eastern Shore, so we are what they refer to in the industry as a little T. We have just under 3,000 megawatts of generation. Let's go on to the next slide. ODEC operates under these 7 cooperative principles. These are important to all electric cooperatives, and then I think probably cooperatives of all different kinds. I bring this up because a lot of our energy efficiency programs and even our demand response programs touch on multiples of these cooperatives. And the ones I'll point out specifically here is concern for community, education and training, and cooperation among cooperatives. We can go on to the next slide. I'm not going to read all of these boxes. I think these slides are going to be made available to you all, but this is who we are, why we do what we do. Our mission is to provide affordable and reliable power to our 11 distribution cooperatives. And we do that through a multiple of ways, but our energy efficiency and demand response programs kind of optimize these resources. We believe very strongly that energy efficiency and demand response are grid resiliency programs. And we try to maximize our programs to be able to achieve all that we can, especially with all of the large load that is coming onto the system. Next slide. So we're here really to talk about our energy efficiency initiatives in rural Virginia. As I mentioned, we are owned by 11 distribution cooperatives, and one of the things we do in our group is facilitate these programs that span across our entire system. It gives us economies of scale on pricing and cost, and we are able then to have a more consistent message across all the cooperative service territories, and that's very beneficial. So this is kind of the bulk of where we are right now on energy efficiency in our rural co-op service territory. We do it through messaging, and I'll talk to those a little bit in a minute. Manufactured homes, and then through our weatherization program. Next slide. On our EE messaging and education initiatives, there's lots of avenues to do this. So we do have our ODEC.com website. Ways to Save kind of highlights all of our energy programs. We have a multiple variety of energy calculators. These calculators are available not just on ODEC.com Ways to Save, but also on all of our co-ops websites. We have 6 or 7 energy calculators, including a whole home calculator that walks the homeowner through the development of a profile on their home. What are the sizes of the home? How many occupants? Goes into appliances and HVAC system to kind of get the whole profile built of the home. And then it runs through and spits out some recommendations of what they could do to save energy. We also have an EV calculator that shows a comparison of, if we have a member who's interested in purchasing an EV, it will show them a comparison of just about every gas fueled vehicle out there compared to just about every EV model that's out there, and the cost of fuel versus the cost of electricity to operate that vehicle. A lot of education on that EV calculating page. We also offer a solar calculator tool that helps a homeowner if they are considering installing solar panels, helps them kind of look at how their home is positioned. Do they have a large canopy from trees over their home that would make the solar panels not beneficial at all? So we've got that option. I don't know if anybody in the audience is a member of a co-op, but if you are, you probably receive a Cooperative Living magazine 10 times a year, and we post ads in that magazine, energy efficiency tips to help the members. We also have some articles in there, not just with energy efficiency, but also about reliable power. So we hope if you get the magazine, you will read those. We also provide some social media posts for our co-ops to use on their Facebook and Instagram sites. Another tool that we use on education is an annual energy efficiency calendar. This is a calendar with photos that are submitted from members across the entire footprint, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. And then each month has a series of seasonal tips that they can use. So we are getting that messaging out there every day of the month, every day of the year. On our non-residential side, we also have monthly e-newsletter that goes out with information on business operations, motors, fans, all different types of energy efficiency operational pieces that they can take advantage of. Next slide. Our manufactured homes program is a brand new program. We have just launched it in Maryland for our cooperative there, but it will be launched in Virginia next year. This is a program that complements the WAP. It does not compete with it, but it is non-income qualified. We have worked with the agencies in helping to get our contractor network developed for this program. It has multiple tiers. So at a minimum, the homeowner will receive an energy audit with a report and some recommendations. We also, they'll get whole house air sealing, a belly wrap repair, a smart thermostat if they have connectivity, Wi-Fi connectivity, fiberglass insulation, and if they have been weatherized through WAP and we're not able to receive an HVAC, we will do an HVAC upgrade. We are really excited about this program and anticipating significant energy savings. So maybe this time next year, we'll be able to report on where we are in Virginia with our manufactured homes program. Next slide. Then we have our weatherization program, and this has been one of my favorite programs. We've been working with the agencies since we first started going down this path in 2017. We had a couple of roundtable meetings with the agencies. We wanted to be able to provide some type of home improvement / weatherization program. Didn't know how best to go about it. And after multiple conversations, we thought, you all have this well-greased WAP program. Why don't we just augment the funds that you all are using for that? So it's been a tremendously successful program. We've been able to weatherize around 600 homes here in Virginia in that time frame. There are, I can't remember exactly how many agencies there are now in the state, but we are working with 5 that service the counties that our cooperatives serve. For some of our cooperatives, there are multiple agencies that serve that particular cooperative service territory. We do have some challenges with the program, and these are challenges that I'm sure our agency friends and partners will chime in on and also recognize it is real. It is a real need. There is a significant wait list. When a homeowner goes to apply, they're informed that it could be minimum of 2 years before the agency is able to get to their home. Sometimes that's due to a need for contractors. To become a WAP qualified contractor, I understand it's a very onerous process with some extra steps that they have to take. And then to compound that contractor challenge, there's a real need for tradespeople. I know we've all heard and understand that there is a lack for in the trades for people going into that field. So that's something that we need to figure out. I don't have any answers for that one today. But this weatherization program does work. There are verified savings. We have just completed a measurement verification study with a third party, and we're seeing about, on average, 2,500 kilowatt hours per home in savings. So we are going to continue to move forward with this program, and very excited about that one. Next slide. And that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, but I'm going to pass the baton to Aubrey Myers with Pittsylvania County Community Action, one of our strong partners in our weatherization program. Aubrey?
Good afternoon. As Erin said, I'm with Pittsylvania County Community Action. We are the weatherization provider for Pittsylvania County, Henry County, and the cities of Danville and Martinsville. However, ODEC only serves Pittsylvania County through Mecklenburg Cooperative and Southside Cooperative. I've been asked to speak on the overview of weatherization with ODEC. We are at what I call ground zero of the weatherization program. We're the sub-grantee, and we're the provider of the weatherization services. We have several funding sources, DO&E, LIHEAP, WRF, WDR, IJA, and the utility programs with ODEC, Dominion, and Appalachian Power. The ODEC weatherization program is probably the most efficient program to administer of all the funding sources for weatherization. ODEC funds, they're used for energy audits, lighting retrofits, water heater wrap, vapor barriers, insulation, both attic and crawl space, mobile home bellies, air sealing, HVAC filters, electrical wiring upgrades if needed, smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, and ASHRAE fans. Of these 10 weatherization measures, we do probably 9 of them on every home that we weatherize, whether it be a site-built home or a manufactured home. And one thing I like about the ODEC program, there is no red tape attached to it. In some of the programs, they come with several rolls of red tape and they hard to administer, but the ODEC program is very simple, and the ODEC people are
talking about.
very easy to work with.
Funny Dominion's not on this.
And
I've never seen RI at one of these things.
Job submission is a very simple process. I have the customer sign the consent form giving us access to the utility usage from the co-op. We prepare an in-house invoice to ODEC listing the measures that were installed and the amount of the incentives that is paid for each measure. And then we put in a photo of the measure, both pre-weatherization and post-weatherization. And then we add a copy of the client's electric bill. We forward it to ODEC. They process it and send the agency the check. Moving on to client relationships, our community action agency, we deal with 5 electric providers. And I found the client relationship with electric cooperatives, both Southside and Mecklenburg, they seem to be better than the client relationships with other electrical providers. I think the reason for that is the cooperative office is more local than, say, your larger companies. And the customers, they see the office, they see the electrical workers more so than maybe a larger companies. And I found the cooperatives are a lot easier to work with than some providers, primarily if the client or customer cannot provide me a copy of their utility bill, I have to contact the power company. And I have had power companies look me in the eye and say, I'm not giving you the usage of the kilowatt hours. And then, have to, twist the arm or go above them. But if I call or go by the cooperative office, tell them I need Joe Smith's electrical usage for the past 12 months, within 30 seconds, I got it in my hand. So they're very helpful in that area. Okay, lack of education about weatherization. I got a good true story that happened about a month ago. Somebody asked me, does weatherization mean it's going to rain today? The general public, I found in rural areas, they have very, very little or no knowledge of the weatherization program unless they've been a weatherization client in the past. And for some reason, we have a problem getting the word out. Now, we've tried brochures, flyers at community events, even take a weatherization application and hand them out at community events and so forth. But there's still a large lack of education. And oftentimes, what will happen, a client's roof will leak for 2 or 3 years, and they just let it leak until the ceiling starts falling down. And then they panic and they start asking around, and somebody will refer them to community action and then start the weatherization process. And as we all know, there's 1, 2, or 3 year wait list. And same token goes a hot water heater, especially in a mobile home. It will leak for a long time, and they do nothing about it until the floor starts caving in, and then they will seek help, and eventually they get to us. And we just need to do more education about weatherization to the rural community, so when they need weatherization, they know where to turn. And I will close by giving a plug. Erin mentioned it, the Cooperative Living magazine that the co-ops put out. That is a very, very good educational material for everything involved with ODEC, the cooperatives, and energy saving. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Aubrey, so much. I wanted to kick us off with a question to sort of warm up everybody after hearing that great content. And as a reminder, if you have questions about the content or about our speakers' experience in weatherization in rural communities, please feel free to drop them in the chat box, and Chelsea and I will be monitoring that. But to get started, one of the questions that's sort of been in the back of my mind is trust. And I know, Aubrey, you mentioned, education is an incredibly important component to these program successes. But specifically speaking to rural communities, how do you build trust and participation in the areas that you serve? I think that they do require a different level of outreach and connection. I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you all approach building trust with your members and your customers. Kris, did you have any initial thoughts to kick us off?
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, you have to be a part of the community. The employees that we have at REC, many of them live within our service territory. We are actively involved in a lot of community events, whether that's helping out at a baseball field, doing cleanup work. We sponsor Clean Up the Highway in a couple of different areas. And then we're a part of community events where we set up our own booths and are a part of the overall event, but we're there specifically to talk about energy savings or to answer any question those members may have about their accounts. So you have to be in the community first and foremost. And if they have a specific complaint, problem, issue for us to solve, we walk through the process showing them, we're very transparent the entire way, showing them why things are on their bill the way they are, what potentially the issues could be, so that at the end of the conversation, it's up to the member themselves as to which option am I going to put in place, what am I not going to do, and then we partner with them for that solution. So the bottom line is you have to actively be in your community, know your membership, and do all of the necessary steps to be transparent. And I think that builds trust.
Awesome. Erin, I'd like to hear your perspective as well.
Well, I mean, Kris lives and breathes that community aspect from Rappahannock, and all of the cooperatives are very community focused. There is a difference, I think, too, in being a member owner of an electric utility from the cooperative versus being a customer. They're easy to connect with. Their call centers are very accessible. They can get in touch with someone pretty readily. And I think the other thing is kind of a rural community. And I'll just add a little personal touch. I've recently moved out into the country in Cumberland County, and you notice a difference in the way that people interact with each other. And I think that that part of the community also helps to build the trust. And then there's the word of mouth, somebody's next door neighbor who is probably a half mile down the road, but still they talk to each other. And I think they learned that something about a program that a member that they know has taken advantage of. And so I think it's much easier in a rural environment to build that trust and participation.
Right. And Aubrey, I'd like to hear a little bit more from you. I know you spoke a little bit about the education component, but in terms of, just what Erin touched on, how does that word of mouth build that trust for you and your organization?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if I was muted or not.
Very good.
Yeah, the way I build trust is when I first encountered the weatherization client, I explained the program to them and tell them, what we can do. And most every client, they want window replacement, and weatherization can't do that. And we have to convince them that we cannot come out and put in, 15 new windows in the house and 2 new doors. And then we make sure they understand that there is a waiting list, and which we get a lot of calls, and they seem to think that we got an HVAC crew, a roofing crew, and a plumber sitting around the office just waiting on a phone call to come out and fix the house. And, I do my best to educate them that it don't work that way. And then, I found rural clients, as Erin said, they just seem a little bit easier to work with than the urban clients that we deal with.
Right. Thank you. My next question that I have, and again, encouraging the audience, if you have any questions, we still have some time for any audience questions or anything that you might want to build upon what you've heard today. But another question that I had, and this might be more specifically for Kris and Erin, but again, Aubrey, I'd love to hear your perspective as well, is the challenges you face as a cooperative, working with members. What challenges do you face that IOUs may not traditionally face? What type of barriers do you find yourself up against with these types of programs? I'd love to hear your perspective, Kris.
Well, I'm not sure that it's any different than an IOU. I mean, obviously, the size of REC is probably one regional or district office at an IOU. We're not as large, but if a member is struggling to pay their bill, or even if they're struggling to make changes to reduce their bill, because what other industry out there works so hard with their customer base, their members in my case, to say, let me reduce the bill so that I get less money coming into my business? Nobody. You don't go into a grocery store and say, hey, here are all the groceries I need, but I'm only going to pay half of it. And even though I've used them all, we got to figure out another way for me to pay you back. So we've got to have different options in our back pocket based on agencies like Aubrey's or other DSS agencies of when that member is struggling, how do we help them? But in the midst of getting financial help, education, education, education. And the turnover in our membership, the same person or the same group that we may have been talking to last year, we've got to say the same message again over and over and over. And that gets old sometimes. But it's necessary because people really don't know how to save energy. Also, laws change, situations change that we have to be readily available to implement with our membership. And sometimes they don't really, bottom line, help the member. Sometimes it's detrimental, but the law is the law. We have to do the legislation as it was written. So I'm not sure if that necessarily answered your question, but it really truly is a fight to educate members on what energy is and how it's being used.
I think that is a unique challenge, for sure. In my position, working with cooperatives and IOUs, that is unique. So I definitely think that adds some context for the group here. Erin, did you have any thoughts? We also have a new question in the chat, so we might pivot to that, but I would love to hear your perspective on any of the challenges that ODEC is facing.
I don't know that it's a challenge per se, but one area where we differ from the investor owns is we don't have the deep pockets that they have. As a member-owned organization, the cooperatives have to be very frugal in how they spend their money to develop and deploy programs like this. ODEC, we are not SCC regulated, but we are FERC regulated, and because we do things at the system level and we can spread that cost, it does help to minimize the expenses involved with running energy efficiency programs. But we still have to be very mindful of the fact that this ultimately, all of these funds that we spend to deploy these programs, it's ultimately coming from the end use consumer at the end of the line. So that's just one piece.
Great. And Aubrey, did you have anything that you wanted to add as well?
From my perspective, the challenges with the cooperatives versus the IOUs, it's really no difference. Our biggest challenge is, meeting the production goals that have been, placed on us. And then, production, it's really hard for the agencies to control the production because we rely on outside entities like contractors and, approval by the state. And then, sometimes DO&E, they hold up production and so forth. And, we're the ones at ground zero actually getting the production done. But, sometimes, our hands are tied and we don't get production.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, all of you. We do have one question from Patrick of Rewiring America. He thanks the panelists for their presentations. Patrick, your question is, I've worked with more IOUs in my experience. What are the discussions like at cooperatives around, one, listing a contractor network and promoting certain quality contractors locally, and two, offering rebates to incentivize home upgrades like heat pumps or heat pump water heaters? And that's available. That was a mouthful. It's available in the chat function. If you need me to reread it, I can.
I think, as my bio says, I've been in the utility industry for many years, and everything ebbs and flows based on what the customer base needs are. I think there are a lot of co-ops that do already try to help the member find the right vendor or contractor if they're dealing with an issue. One of the bigger issues for us is when you have a member that has a high bill and they're struggling to pay that high bill, a lot of time the problem is they don't have money to make the necessary changes to bring that bill down. And if they don't have the money to pay the electric bill, they certainly don't have the money to replace the HVAC or make large upgrade or home upgrade changes to really do a better job at using energy. It's why ODEC and many of the Virginia co-ops are looking for a program that we can implement that gives those members or those people help, because they would rather use space heaters, or they would rather find other ways of heating their home. I'll just pick on the winter months. And then it's not efficient at all, because it's a catch-22. It's just a vicious circle, and they're not sure how to get out of it. We have had in the past, we have reached out and had contractor listings. And sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes not so much, because we're not up to keeping track on how those contractors are rated, what they're doing well, what they may not be doing well. So we would prefer to let people like the Better Business Bureau or other agencies or organizations that's their niche regarding giving people feedback, like the Angie, something like that, because that's what they do.
Right.
So I would say we're not against it. It's just keeping the list up to date, active, and accurate isn't always easy as you're dealing with the members.
And I do have one follow-up question. And what about availability? Is there a large availability of contractors that are readily available to do this work? Or is that a new barrier or a potential barrier for, these larger, more technical pieces of equipment?
I would say it depends. Let's look at the Commonwealth of Virginia, Berryville specifically, that area. I would say the contractor listing is pretty okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then let's go to Essex County, down in the Northern Neck, where it's mostly fishermen, farmers, etc. Not so much. You're not going to have a lot of choices. So it really depends on the part of Virginia you're talking about within the REC territory. During COVID, we have a water heater replacement program. And during COVID, we had to find plumbers to help us, because we still wanted to provide that service, but we had to be careful about our employees going into homes, etc. Certain pockets of our territory, we found some issues because there weren't very many plumbers to choose from.
Got it. Thank you. Erin, any additional context or response onto Patrick's question regarding contractor networks and offering rebates for these home upgrades?
So I agree 100% with what Kris was saying on having a contractor network, especially at the ODAC system level, because our service territory goes from the southwest part of Virginia all the way to Delaware on the eastern shore. So that is a big challenge. When we have needed contractors for specific instances, or if our co-ops have needed, we have reached out to the weatherization agencies and find out who their contractor network is. So I think there's ways that we can get around actually having our own contractor network that needs to be managed. That takes an additional resource, and we're all resource constrained. With your question about incentivizing with rebates for heat pumps and heat pump water heaters, we have not implemented that type of a program. We are continually evaluating all energy programs to see what makes the most sense. And we actually run cost benefit tests to see if we are going to be able to get the savings that would justify the cost of implementing a program like that. I will share with this group, one of our programs that we will be launching next year is an e-commerce platform where cooperative members can go in and purchase everything from weather stripping and outlet gaskets to EV chargers, thermostats, smart thermostats. I don't think we have heat pumps in there yet, but there will be a discount applied to that. So more to come on that one as well.
Great. That's exciting. And Aubrey, anything to add on to Patrick's question regarding anything from maintaining a contractor network and credibility in rural spaces with, certain quality contractors, or any desire or need from folks that you've heard from on heat pumps or heat pump water heaters?
I can only speak from the weatherization side of the house. Contractor requirements for weatherization are a lot tougher and stricter and more encumbered and more of everything than it is, say if ODEC would pay for replacing a hot water heater, then we probably could just call a local plumber and say, go replace this water heater. But we deal, 99% of our work is weatherization, and the contractors, they have a whole laundry list of qualifications and certifications and so forth, and licenses that they have to have before we can have them do a job that will be paid for by state funds or federal funds.
Great. Thank you. Again, any other questions based on what you've heard today, feel free to drop them in the chat. When looking back on your tenure in this space, Aubrey, while I have you, can you share any specific lessons learned from integrating new programs in rural communities? So you've gotten a new program, you're unlocking new incentives or new opportunities with the utility or cooperative. What are specific lessons learned that you can recall on that you've held closely to you that you think would be important to share?
I think it would be basically all the utility funds, because when I started in 2010 in weatherization, there was no utility funds at all. And then when utility funds came online, it enabled us to, provide a better service and lower the average cost per unit, which that's big right now in the eyes of the state and the feds. We not supposed to go over a certain amount per each weatherization job we do. And if we do an example, if we got a weatherization job of $12,000 and utilities will pay $6,000, then we've cut that job in half. And then as far as ODEC goes, what they pay, it also helps reduce the total cost per job, and we get it to more of a manageable number as far as the total job cost.
Great. Thank you, Aubrey. And I'll go back to my question and maybe I'll throw it to Erin. Any lessons learned from launching new programs? So maybe any of the programs that you've mentioned, or as you were gearing up for your e-commerce platform, any lessons learned with regard to partnerships and contractor networks or, rollout into rural communities?
Well, with regard to the weatherization program, I think from the get-go, being able to pull all of the agencies together to find out, how we could best develop or design a program that would make their life as easy as possible and still be able to benefit from the additional funds that they wanted to provide for the program. Developing those relationships with the agencies has been huge, and that kind of feeds over into our manufactured home program as we're working with ICF to develop our contractor network. I think that's going to be a huge benefit in helping with that.
Great. Thank you. All right. And Kris, any lessons learned that you can recall from launching new programs, including weatherization in your region?
Yes, I would say know your membership. We've had a couple of opportunities, different than weatherization, but I think it made a point where we were getting ready to launch a program, and someone said, "Who's going to be interested in?" And we couldn't answer that question. And once we went back and did some surveying, we realized that it wasn't who we thought it was, and we decided to delay that that release of that program and move in a new direction that was better for REC and for the membership. So know your members and know that if that whatever that demographic, psychographic group is, know who you're targeting.
Right. Thank you. And actually, this next question from Andrew is for you, Kris. Um, Curious about what happens when REC's staff visits homes where members have high bill complaints. Do you consider that an energy audit? I'm sorry, something's blocking my view. Do you consider that an energy audit? Do staff perform blower door or duct leakage testing? Are any savings calculations that's performed during these audits or visits?
Yes, and we start with a phone interview and talking through truly understanding what the member is trying to find out. Do they truly not know how they're using their energy, or do they feel like there's something wrong in the house? We do have personnel to do energy audits in the field. They'll have a checklist and they'll start there. If it becomes a bigger issue, we do have certified people who can come out and do a blower door test and do more detailed checking based on, we have electricians and we have HVAC certified employees. So yes, we take it step by step, and because at any point we're hoping that process could stop because we find the issue or we can explain the usage.
Right. Thank you, Kris. All right, Chelsea, any other questions from the group? I think we've got some really great ones in the chat box, but I think we've covered them. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I missed one. I skipped one. Apologies. For Kris or Erin, and maybe Erin will start with you. We've heard about how the vast growth of data centers coming online is stressing the grid, and some of those data centers are being built in cooperative territories. How are the co-ops preparing for this growth while helping insulate their customer members from skyrocketing electricity costs?
Wow. That's a big question. And it's interesting. We've got this huge mix, diverse population size of cooperatives across our service territory, all the way from 12,000 meters all the way to Rappahannock's 184,000. We are having these data centers come into our co-op service territory. I had a meeting earlier where we were talking about how all of our demand response programs to date are like smart thermostat programs on the residential side. There are a few that are still doing AC switches, not many. Few have a few water heater switches. None of that load reduction will mitigate any of the data center load coming on board. So we are going to continue to expand our demand response, knowing full well that it will not negate that need, but it does help with grid resiliency, as I mentioned earlier. And we are working from a rate structure to be able to protect the cooperatives from any potential financial risk should a data center come on board and then leave suddenly with stranded assets. So it's a big story to tell right now, and we're doing all that we can to protect them, and we feel very comfortable in that.
Great. Thanks, Erin. And Kris, any thoughts on how your members are responding to data centers entering the region? Any concerns that they have?
I would say that right now we're taking it one data center at a time, if you will, and we are protecting our base load, our core load outside of the data centers being added on. And that is why you've heard probably John Hua announce our hyperscale organization, a subsidiary of REC, which would concentrate on helping those data centers find the load that they need, but not taking away from our core responsibility of our current membership. So we do look at it as two different avenues. As Erin spoke, we are working with ODEC and other organizations to have a bigger, bolder DERMS platform and program to be able to look at battery storage, look at new programs where the membership can cut back on energy during peak time. So I think it's not one answer. It's a lot of different efforts coming together. But as Erin said, we're very comfortable in the path that we're moving because the more that we educate our members on how they can save energy, and the more that we work with the data centers on exactly what they need, I think the better off we are at finding a long-term solution that probably has many pieces.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Feel free to take yourself off mute or drop it in the chat. Erin, Aubrey, Kris.
Elena?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
This is Chelsea. Erin, I don't recall that you mentioned this in your presentation, but I know in my conversations with Allison Kaufman, just talking about how, so with your manufactured housing program, talking about how different co-ops have different percentages of manufactured housing in their territories. I think one being up to over a quarter, 25% or more, which also, when Kris mentioned know your territory, know who your consumer members are, can you talk a little bit about that? I guess from the ODEC perspective, system level perspective, when you are putting forward these programs, how do you help the distribution co-ops who have very vastly different memberships amongst themselves?
Specifically with the manufactured housing program, or
No, it could be any
generally?
program. It was just it caught my when Kris mentioned that, I just thought about, yes, the co-ops themselves are vastly different. In addition to being different from the IOUs, the co-ops are different from one another as well.
Right. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we've got co-ops ranging from 12,000 meters all the way to 184,000. From the Eastern Shore with more coastal types of businesses and coastal home issues. And we could talk with Project Homes all day long about the weatherization effort over on the Eastern Shore and how that's been a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, all the way to the mountains on the west side. So for the manufactured housing, typically in Virginia, I think the average is around 6%. All of our cooperatives, well, not all of them, but the majority of them are double digits. And we do have a couple that are in the 20 to 25, 27% manufactured housing. So we do on an every other year basis a RAS survey, residential appliance saturation survey, but we also get some demographics on the cooperative residences. So we have a good feel for what those demographics are and what they look like. And we include that information as we're designing programs. For example, with our manufactured housing, we're going to try to focus on the cooperative territories that have the greater percentage of manufactured housing in their population. So that's basically how we do it. Does that answer your question, Chelsea?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Aubrey, Erin, or Kris, any closing remarks before we conclude today?
No, just thank you.
Thanks for your time and
Yeah,
listening
thank
to our
you.
programs.
And I'll see some of y'all tomorrow at the University of Richmond.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Have a good one.